This is the World Financial Report podcast. My name is Randy Marshall. Joining us is our financial and diamond expert, Harold Siegel. We're taping our podcast on May the 10th, 2018. Our time is 8:12 Mountain. It is Mother's Day on Sunday. We say Happy Mom's Day to all the mothers out there. Long weekend in Canada next weekend because of Victoria Day on Monday. The following weekend in the United States, they have a long weekend on the 28th, Memorial Day. So we have some holidays coming up in Canada and the United States. But yes, don't forget Mom on Sunday. Connect with Harold at rarecoloreddiamonds.com. rarecoloreddiamonds.com, 1-800-432-1022. U.S. dollar at 92.63 as we start today's program. Canadian dollar 77.87, gold at 13.21, silver 16.70, gold-silver ratio 79, platinum at 9.23, palladium 9.88, WTI 71.10, Brent 77, Nat gas 2.76, Bitcoin in the United States 93.47, Canadian Bitcoin 11,944. The Dow starting today at 24,624, S&P 2697, NASDAQ 7362, TSX 15,910. To give you an idea of some of the gas prices, just very quickly, in Edmonton, high price, and this is liters now, 132.9, and the low price 119.4. Calgary 121.9 low, and the high 134.9. Vancouver, the low 143.9, high 163.9. Toronto, the low 119.9 and the high 141.9. In Montreal, the low price 129.4, the high price 165.9. So gas prices remaining very high and probably will go higher as the summer goes along. Geopolitically, in the United States overnight, they actually brought back 3 men from North Korea. They were held prisoner, American citizens held prisoner, and they were released by North Korea. And obviously a bit of a win for Donald Trump. One of the other things that caught people's attention this week, Donald Trump backed out of the Iranian deal that they had regarding nuclear devices. He pulled out. And there was this week, Iran and Israel were going at each other. Israel hits Iran's Syria bases with 70 missiles, killing at least 23 fighters, and vowing if it rains in Israel, it pours in Iran. And they've been firing back and forth at each other. So, Harold, geopolitically, some interesting moves. And obviously, we're happy about those Americans coming back to the United States and the fact that they're negotiating at some point, maybe in Switzerland, Donald Trump and the leader of North Korea, get that situation stabilized. But when it comes to Iran and Israel, it looks like oil prices could go up just based on that alone.
It sure could. In fact, if you would have watched the market at all just prior to the announcement coming out, I think it was on Tuesday, if Trump was going to stay in the deal or not, the market was extremely volatile. Oil prices were all over the place, but it seemed pretty obvious at that point that Trump was going to go through with his decision. It was a bad business deal. Again, the thing about having a guy like Trump as a president versus a guy like Obama as a president, Obama's a politician. Not saying that he could do a better job. In most cases, he can't. But there's other factors that go into a deal, just whether the deal is good or the deal isn't. The fact is that there's normally a lot of conditions and concessions that go into a deal. You do this for us and we'll do this deal for you type of thing. Then you get a guy like Trump coming in after the fact, and he looks at the deal based on a different level, and he says this is a horrible deal for us. And more than likely, it is. The fact is, when the deal first came out, there was a lot of people up in arms about it. Nobody can trust Iran. Never could. So the fact is that by pulling out, he's really caused a lot of issues. Again, there's a lot of countries that wanted him not to pull out of it, but he did. Now we're going to see the repercussions. There's going to be problems within the Middle East. There's certainly going to be fighting. Israel's going to be the major part of it because the attacks are going to be on Israel because of our relationship with Israel and the U.S. And the fact is that Trump's not going to back down. Either is Israel. Israel is one of the greatest fighting armies on the planet, and believe me, they could do some serious damage to Iran. Not that we want to see this, but this will affect the price of oil. Oil's basically broken out of a range. It's trading now in the $71 to $72 level. And if this does continue, we could definitely see prices of oil continue to go substantially higher. Now, what this is also going to do, it's inflationary. There's no doubt that when people are not making more money, but the cost of living is going up, like the cost of rent and the cost of gasoline, you're going to have issues. Then you've got the fluctuations in the dollar. The U.S. dollar fluctuates. In actual fact, it broke above the 70-cent level. The 90-cent level. And the fact is that the dollar could get very, very volatile at this particular point because we're going to have to see what happens with interest rates. If they are going to raise interest rates to fight inflation, raising interest rates will strengthen the dollar. But on a day like today, as we're taping the show, the U.S. dollar's down 50 points on the day, half a penny. So the fact is the dollar did strengthen slightly during the Iranian discussions, and now that that's all in the news and everything, now you've got that the dollar is starting to back off again. So you've got gold that had dropped all the way down to around 1310. Now it's back up slightly on the day because gold's up $6 based on the fact that the dollar has weakened slightly. So just by watching the markets, the relationship between the U.S. dollar and gold is going to give you an indication how to trade this market. Now, if you're a short-term futures trader, I would say, not only watching support, resistance, those type of things, Fibonacci and the different analytical situations that you can use to determine a market. To me, the market trades off a strong and a weak dollar. And basically, where I'm not advocating trading futures in any way, because most people that trade the futures market lose, 90% of the people lose their money. So in no way, shape, or form are we suggesting that the listeners to our show trade futures. I'm just saying by watching the futures market in gold, the oil, and the U.S. dollar, it'll give you an indication as to short term which way that currency is going to go or which way the commodity is going to go. So at this particular point, there's very heavy support in gold at 1,300. The closer we get to 1,300, the market starts to rise a bit because it would take a fair amount for gold to break below 1,300. There is resistance at 1,280, but the biggest support for gold is at 1,050. So 1,050, it would take an extreme situation for gold to break down and go all the way and break down through the 1,050 level. And the reason that 1,050 is important is back in 2011, when gold hit 1,900, as I've mentioned several times on the show, the exchanges where gold is traded, they started manipulating the gold market, raising the margin requirements, making it so expensive to trade gold that gold came crashing down. All the speculators had to sell out because they were they either had to meet margin or lose their money. So as the market sold off further and further, that's where the problems arose. So at this particular point, again, the gold market is going to react primarily to the dollar. And if the dollar remains in a trend that it's in right now in a trading range, then we certainly don't see gold breaking down below 1,050. And on the upside, gold would have to break 1,380. We're a lot closer to 1,380 than we are to 1,050. It would take the dollar really starting to skyrocket to get above par, probably to the 102 to 103 level or higher, in order for gold to even be contemplating the 1,050 level. So I don't think the gold is going to break down. I think that we're seeing it trading in the lower end of its range at this particular point. Now you've got geopolitically, you've got the situation with Iran, Syria, Russia, Israel, because we know that Russia supports Syria and Iran. So, again, this thing could really heat up. As you can see, Trump has no problems stirring controversy. He has no problems making a decision and dealing with the decision. He's a bully. He's a tough guy. And I think he was right with this Iranian situation. Now we're going to see what the ramifications are. Oil's going to rally. The dollar, should really strengthen at this particular point. But again, it weakened by half a penny today. So we'll certainly keep you advised as to what's happening. But with these geopolitical situations and with Iran now looking to go to war with Israel, I'd put my money on Israel, even though Iran has got a formidable army. I would put my money on Israel every day of the week. So we're going to have to see what happens in that area. You're going to watch the gold market very closely. The currency markets are moving. There's action in the markets again, and we'll certainly let you know what we feel are the best opportunities in these markets. Now, don't forget, we're very conservative here. We're not big risk takers. We don't leverage anything. If we're going to buy something, we're going to buy it on its merits, and we're not going to take the risk of heavy leverage, because leverage can work for you and against you. We certainly don't want to put our clients or listeners in a position where they're heavily leveraged in the market going the wrong way.
Connect with Harold, 1-800-432-1022. The website, rarecoloreddiamonds.com, 1-800-432-1022. Before we get to two quotes about gold and silver, wanted to make note that in Argentina, they raised interest rates for the second time in 24 hours during the week to 40%. The move represents the third time in a week to arrest the fall of the Argentine peso, which is struggling to maintain its value against the U.S. dollar. The central bank attempted a rate rise to 33.25 on Thursday, which was unable to stop the fall of the currency. But in Argentina, 40%. And we know Venezuela has their problems as well. In fact, I was reading that I don't play online video games. It's just not my thing. But there are a lot of people into World of Warcraft. And there was a story I read where there's a currency within this game, World of Warcraft, and I've had friends who play the game, that currency was worth more than the Venezuelan currency was. So a game, a game that you play online, the currency was worth more than what was going on in Venezuela. Absolutely stunning, to say the least. So,
well, with 40% interest rates, I would say that Argentina is not going to be very far behind, because talk about stymieing an economy. Nobody can buy anything.
No, not at all.
You can't buy a home. You can't take out a mortgage. You can't get a loan to run your business. That's an unbelievable situation, Randy. That's just an unbelievable situation that these countries in South America are going through these issues.
Very true. And I remember as a kid when it was growing up in Kelowna, when it was 15, 16, 17%, and everyone thought, wow. And here they have 40%, and even people today that are renewing mortgages at 5% think, wow, that's a big number. No, it's not actually. It's more normalized than it has been for many years. Now, one of the things we want to have you do on a weekly basis, besides listen to the podcast, is get our free weekly newsletter, the companion to the podcast. We put things in bite-sized pieces. You can get completely up to date. All you need to do, and you can read it on any device. You can just go through it in about 2, 3, 4 minutes, and you know what's happening in the financial world and geopolitical world. 2 interviews you want to take a look at if you have the time from usawatchdog.com, and that is Greg Hunter. He used to work with CNN. He interviewed Nomi Prinz, and she said, how does the common man protect himself? And Nomi Prinz says, they have to own things, and by that I mean real assets. Where have you heard that before? Harold and I have been talking about that for so long. Hard assets like silver and gold. That's not as liquid, so taking cash out of the bank and sort of keeping it in real things and keeping it in an area where you can have it, also physical cash might not be a bad idea. You need to extract it from the system, because the reality is, when a financial crisis happens, banks close their doors to depositors. Also, basically try to decrease your debt. Good advice. Harold has been saying the same thing for years and years. Now, Michael Pinto, he was interviewed by Greg Hunter as well, and you can see the interview via our newsletter. He is very concerned about the U.S. financial system. He says, we will have deflation first and then runaway inflation. Pinto says this means gold is the place to be for the foreseeable future. He contends there's going to be a run on gold like we have never seen before. There's going to be a super spike in precious metals. These are unprecedented times coming up, and you could take, and you should take, physical possession of your gold. I like gold and silver, and I like platinum. I most especially like gold, though. This is happening now. The bond bubble is going to burst. And we had a little bark there. Obviously,
that's little Trixie. My new Australian Shepherd toy puppy.
She agrees, Harold. She agrees with Michael Pinto and Nomi Prinz. But Harold, you and I have been talking for many, many years, and obviously we agree with Pinto and Prinz. Get something into hard assets. Yes, there is inflation coming at some point, and you want to have physical possession of hard assets, and now is the time to do it.
You better believe it. Again, I'd rather be 6 months early than one day too late, because the fact is that these markets trade 24 hours. They're global markets, and when we're asleep, the gold market and the currency markets are trading. So the fact is that we could wake up to a situation, which we have many times. The situation that I brought to your attention before that happened in 2011, just think about it. Gold started trading in 2000 at about $250. We were in the biggest bull market of all time for 11 years. Gold went from $250 to $1,900, and when it was on its way to $2,000 and $2,500, till all of a sudden, that one day we woke up and gold was plummeting. It had nothing to do with the market. It had nothing to do with geopolitical. It had everything to do with the government saying that if gold is trading this high, it signals that we're not recovering, and that's not a good thing. So let's bring down the price of gold. So when gold dropped from 1920 all the way down to 1,050, you had no chance of getting out of the market. It happened so fast. If you were in the futures markets, those markets were going down limit every single day. People were losing a fortune, but the fact is that the government doesn't give a damn about that. They manipulated the market because it was in their best interest to do so, and didn't care about the speculators and traders that put their hard-earned money up and were right about the marketplace. So when gold does start to trade again, there is a gap between $1,050 and $1,900 that has to be filled, because that trade did not come from anything that was in the marketplace. It was a forced situation. It was almost like forced liquidation, that the clients had no alternative but to liquidate their positions, and they were sitting there scratching their head because there was no reason for it. Nobody understood. They didn't wake up that morning and find out that the dollar had skyrocketed all the way back to up to that never happened. The fact is that it was made to happen. So when gold does trade again, it's been trading in a range for the last several years, in around the 13 to 1350 range. But once it does break out, there's a huge gap that has to be made up between $1,050 and $1,900. And when the market does get back on track and does start to move higher, that $600 move from where we are right now is going to be very quick. You're not going to be able to catch it. And then they're going to start to make gold more expensive to trade in the futures market like they did before. So again, it's not as simple as saying that gold is going to go up. It's a matter of owning the actual metal prior to anything happening. there's no way the gold is going to go to zero. It's not going to do what General Motors did or a lot of the stocks back in 2008 when the market went under. General Motors was bankrupt. Chrysler was almost bankrupt. Insurance companies bankrupt. Banks were bankrupt. If we didn't have quantitative easing and the government didn't print trillions of dollars, the U.S. would have gone under. We would have been in a depression. But they did the right thing at that particular point. But unfortunately, what they did do is they manipulated certain markets in which to accomplish what they needed to do. There will be a time in the foreseeable near future that gold market is going to gap back to 1900, and most people are going to miss that move. So again, with what's happening in the world right now, just think about it. Interest rates have been almost at zero since 2008, 9, and 10 in that area. For the last 8 or 9 years, there's been cheap money out there. And that's why certain people that know money and know how to deal with that made a lot of money, even with zero or negative interest rates. So the fact is that as interest rates, went to zero type of thing, there weren't very many investments available for the general public that they could capitalize on, because you can't keep your money in the bank and get zero return on it. And what it did is it forced investors back into a very risky stock market that most people never should have been in the first place. So again, when markets are manipulated, you're eventually going to see, it could be 5-10 years later, but eventually when that market does have reason to rally again, that price has got to be made up, and it's going to be a quick $600 move in gold that's going to catch most people by surprise.
Really believe in hard assets right now. Gold in particular, gold, silver, diamonds. 1-800-432-1022 to speak personally and privately with Harold about investing in hard assets. His website, rarecoloreddiamonds.com, like going to a museum online where you can invest in the world's finest diamonds. One website I want to have you bookmark, drudgereport.com. And Matt Drudge has run this for many, many years. A great website. And on there right now, Israel and Iran trade blows, new phase in war. Khamenei warns Trump, oil spikes. And they have stories there. Israel strikes Iranian targets in Syria as regional tensions mount. 70 missiles rain down. They have another story. Iranian politicians burning the U.S. flag, vowing death to America. Zionists will regret. Tehran likely to launch cyber attacks on Western businesses, and gas prices topping $4 a gallon at some places in California. I encourage you to keep an eye on Drudge. We bring you stories from the website, and it's a great place to go to keep updated every day on what's happening in the world. And I have no money or anything involved in this, so it's just more of a heads up. One of the things we want to talk about is what's happening here in Canada. They're going to make marijuana legal. It was supposed to happen July 1, Canada Day. Now, the Senate here in Canada is appointed, not elected, and the senators are dragging their feet having this bill be passed. They would like more time, and I think the average everyday citizen believes, listen, they're putting this through. Okay, we get it. They're going to do it. I'm not crazy about it, but there are so many things they haven't thought of. But they just want to get it in and I guess let the lawsuits reign or figure it out as they go. But Canada's legal marijuana market will be $6.5 billion by 2020, according to CIBC. For comparison, that's far more than Canadians spent on liquor in 2017. CIBC, Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce, is predicting legal marijuana will be a huge opportunity for investors, producers, and retailers. And one thing, Harold, I think people should be very, very careful about getting involved in this market at this time, because the valuations are insane, because everyone thinks there's going to be big money to be made. And I've seen different financial analysts say, really, the big money is not going to be there. Not everybody. I don't smoke. So guess what? I'm not going to suddenly start smoking marijuana or cigarettes just because this is now illegal. I worry about communal environments like apartments and condos and things of that nature. But that's another battle for another day for those people that live there. But Harold, I think people need to be smart and sit back, just wait and wait for things to shake out a bit and see who the winners and losers are, who's making money, who's not. But there is an opportunity to make money without a doubt, but you could lose a tremendous amount of money if you are not smart.
Right. And in the U.S., right now, marijuana is actually legal in about 5 or 6 states. So the fact is that you could have a marijuana business, but the banks cannot take your money. So it's a total cash business. And the fact is that you can't use credit cards and you can't use cash. You can't put the money in the bank. So these pot companies, which I don't believe are as profitable, and you just confirmed that, there's not huge money there. There may be big money for the growers. You know, the fact is that if you own a shop, how much money are you going to make? Along with the fact, how often are you going to get robbed? Now, if they do it in Canada and they make it legal throughout all of Canada, that's a different story. Then it's possible that the banks will allow them to treat it as a business and accept credit cards and that type of thing. But in the U.S., where it's not legal in most states, the fact is the banks won't accept it as a business. You still can't fly with it or travel with it or anything like that. So the fact is that who's making all the money? The individual states are making all the money. Colorado is racking up the tax dollars like you've never seen before, but I don't know how much the actual pot industry or I don't hear anybody getting filthy rich by dealing in pot.
Very true. It's not like Silicon Valley, where we know the billionaires that have come out of there, and this is completely different. People have been smoking marijuana illegally for a long time, growing it illegally for a long time. And there will continue to be a black market out there. So we will have to see how this plays out.
Yep.
As we get towards the end of the podcast, we like to talk about some of the more interesting things in the world of hard assets, like Rockefeller, the Picasso that he put up for sale, the Rockefeller collection. There was an auction during the week, and a painting sold for $115 million, including fees. And they were selling jewelry, furniture, silver, and other items. The collection, they felt, could fetch anywhere from $500 million to $1 billion. A Picasso painting called Young Girl with a Basket of Flowers was considered to be the star of the collection, went for $115 million. Once again, Harold, showing hard assets doing very, very well at auction. Now, the wealthy are hoarding $10 billion of Bitcoin in bunkers. Behind the guards, the blast doors, and down corridors of reinforced concrete sit the encrypted computer servers connected to nothing that holds keys to a vast digital fortune. And that's something new. A lot of Silicon millionaires and billionaires in the Bitcoin market, and they actually have $10 billion in Bitcoin in bunkers just to be safe. Americans are hoarding money in their checking accounts and saving accounts. That could be a problem because people are not spending money. That's a huge concern. But two of the stories that I wanted to pass along, Harold, because I was just so fascinated with this. I'm not a big horse race fan, but I always love watching the Kentucky Derby every year. And I did watch it on last Saturday. Justify was the chosen one to win, went from the start to finish and won the whole thing. But Justify won the Kentucky Derby, entering the race with 3-1 odds and becoming the 6th straight favorite to win the race. But months before the race, one brave bettor waged $500 on Justify when he was still unraced, and it wasn't even certain that he would participate in the Derby. The bet paid off huge, netting the gambler $150,000 with the win thanks to an insider tip. Now it gets better. Justify, we know, wins, and over 1,000 miles away, one lucky bettor turned an initial investment of $18, remember this is $18, into $1.2 million with the win. The gambler, who asked not to be identified, correctly predicted the winner of 5 straight races at Churchill Downs, including a 40-1 long shot, with Justify likely being the easiest win of their day on the way to becoming a millionaire. Harold, I don't bet on the Kentucky Derby. I like watching it. And it was raining so hard. I felt sorry for the riders and the horses. But just imagine turning $18 into $1.2 million or even $500 into $150. That is not a bad day, to say the least.
That is for sure. It was actually a woman who won it. And just to think that you could pick 5 winners in a row is unbelievable. I mean, just doesn't happen. So congratulations to her. She did great. It was a very exciting Kentucky Derby. And yes, the last 6 winners were all favorites. So that should tell you something. But then again, with the track as sloppy as it was on Saturday, you would have thought that another horse could have come ran well on a sloppy track. But that was the class of the race, and he did great.
Robert Downey Jr. was paid more than $1 million a minute for his role in Spider-Man: Homecoming. Movie I have to see yet. Got it taped. The 53-year-old who played Iron Man since 2008. And remember Robert Downey Jr., he had so many brushes with the law. He was always a brilliant actor and had an addiction problem, had many other challenges, and finally has gotten his life straightened around. And for 8 minutes, he appeared in, actually, they say here since 2008, appeared in the Marvel movie for 8 minutes, but brought in $10 million. So he got paid approximately $1 million a minute. That is a comeback, to say the least. Congratulations to Robert Downey Jr., who is, as Iron Man, very, very funny. One of the things we need to repeat as we get towards the end of the podcast here, and that is that quote from Nomi Prinz. And she says, how does the common man protect himself? They have to own things, and by that I mean real assets. And Harold, now more than ever, people need to own real assets.
You better believe it. The world is crazy right now. You never know what's going to happen when you wake up in the morning. You don't know what Trump is going to do. You don't know what these mad people are going to do. Again, right now, Kim Jong-un did the right thing and released those 3 Americans, even though they're Asian Americans. The fact is that he did release them, which is a very good sign. But the fact is that it's going to take a long time for people to really trust this guy. And it's been a communist country. The people don't have any real wealth there. So it's going to be interesting to see what is actually going to come from this meeting. But obviously, one of the best things that could happen is that a dictator changes his ways and tries to get along, in a business world type of thing. And that would be a wonderful thing to see. Again, right now we've got problems with Russia, with China, with Iran, with Syria. Again, it would be good to be able to take North Korea off the list.
Without a doubt. And, there seems to be people in the United States, well, not seems, there is, and it includes CNN and many other media members. They absolutely just hate Donald Trump with a passion. And it's really divided the United States. But the truth is, he has, and sure, he might have not done a lot according to some people, but he has accomplished something with this North Korean issue. And I think a lot of it had to do with his craziness on Twitter and Rocket Man, and basically, I think, behind the scenes through back channels saying, I have no problem dropping the bomb on you. And I'm sure it scared the hell out of these people in North Korea. And I'm sure as well, China prompting that didn't hurt either. But people are saying that Trump, if this actually could be settled with North Korea and South Korea and the United States, he could win the Nobel Peace Prize. And
wow. Wouldn't that be hilarious?
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that here's a guy everybody hates so much, but even his own critics have to say, hey, wait a minute, he actually would deserve it if this happens, because this is something.
Unlike Obama,
that's
didn't
right.
he get the Peace Prize when he first came into office?
That's right, his first year. His first year in office, he got it for nothing. And Obviously, he didn't turn it down, but that's the great irony of Trump is people hate him so much.
His popularity is actually going up, to be honest with you.
Oh, it is. No,
it's hard to believe, but his popularity is going up.
If you check out Drudge on a regular basis, they keep track, I think, of Rasmussen, tracks his polling, and granted, Rasmussen is conservative, but Republican, but he's up around 40-50% at times. So, but we'll have to wait and see what happens there. And it's just sort of funny. The more people hate him, the more. So here he is, another win, getting these people back from North Korea, the 3 Americans.
I think that's great.
Oh, it is.
I think that's fabulous.
In some ways, he is a little bit Reagan-esque, Trump, because he's getting some of these things done that no one thought could be done, or just for whatever reason did not happen. And he's doing it. So we'll have to wait and see. Just quickly here, I wanted to mention in the section of rare colored diamonds in our newsletter, Christie's is going to auction an 8-carat flawless blue diamond in Hong Kong. It's an 8-carat fancy vivid blue, internally flawless pendant necklace. The estimate on it, $18.5 million to $25 million. And they actually have some other rare colored diamonds as well. That auction is coming up May 29 in Hong Kong. The ones we're looking for are the middle of the month in Geneva, where they auction off just a ton of outstanding diamonds. And we will keep you up to date on that. But get our free weekly newsletter. There's an article, Crucial Reasons You Should Consider Investing in Colored Diamonds in 2018. It is a must read. And I encourage you to get our free weekly newsletter from Harold, rarecoloreddiamonds.com or 1-800-432-1022. Harold, we're taping on a Thursday. Tonight it is the Winnipeg Jets and Nashville and Winnipeg playing. And the winner will go on to play the Golden Knights in the East. It's a pretty good series between Washington, have not been in the final in 20 years, playing Tampa Bay. The winners will ultimately go to the Stanley Cup final, but as a Canadian, good luck to the Winnipeg Jets. But if I was a betting man, I hate to say it, I think Nashville is going to take it tonight. Any predictions?
I would love to see Winnipeg win, so I'm going to stick with that.
Good luck to the Jets. And Harold, any closing thoughts here with the podcast?
I just want to wish all the moms out there a very, very happy Mother's Day. You deserve it. Have a wonderful day. I wish all the listeners a very profitable day also.
Yes, happy Mother's Day to my mom. And I had an early lunch with her last week. We had a nice lunch together, and she's heading off on a little trip here soon, so with my sister. So a nice Mother's Day present there as well. But that's it, another edition of the World Financial Report podcast. You can connect with Harold at 1-800-432-1022. rarecoloreddiamonds.com is the website. That's it, another edition of our podcast. We will talk to you next week.